Okay, this is just a quick demo on how to make a pattern for hand paws. I have here a large sheet of paper. This is packaging paper, which you can get at Walmart. It's really good if you like to do lots of drafting and sewing projects. Fairly cheap and nice and big. So, hand paws actually are not that difficult. What you want to start with is just a big enough sheet of paper that you can trace your hand onto it, and lay it as flat as possible. And if you are doing 5-fingered hand paws, you want to spread your fingers out enough so that they all have as much room as possible. So a really nice big spread on those. And when you trace, these ones I'm only doing up to the wrist, so like here's where your wrist is. Usually I go about an inch or two more just to make sure I've gotten it. And you don't want to tuck your pencil all the way down here and make a mark like that. You want to kind of just stick it straight up and down and trace around. So like this. It's just like making those hand turkeys you used to make when you were in kindergarten back there. Okay, so that's what we have, and let me get a pen. Usually I don't like to hold pens against my skin just because I tend to mark on my skin then, and I don't like walking around with black marks, but outlining it in the black marker so you guys can see it better. Doesn't have to be nice and neat really, because it's just a pattern. But more or less like that. You can see they are spread nice and wide, and there we go. So then what I also do is the part where I stop measuring at, so right here. This is a straight measuring tape. You actually don't want to use one of these, but this is what I have. You want to just get more or less what the circumference of your wrist right here is. So mine is about 7. 7 is actually a little bit big, which is kind of what you want. So round up, and that is 7 inches. I also tend to like to take this measurement right here because some people have bigger hands than others. This kind of gives you an idea of how big the hand you're working with is. Like, for example, my brother, who's 6'6", has gigantic hands, which is why I do hand paws this way and don't do generic hand paws. Okay, so 7.5 inches for there. So that is 7.5 inches. So that when you go to do this, you can actually take into account the fact that this is not 7.5, this is only 3.5. Even if I was to double that, I would be about ½ an inch short, so they would be really, really tight. This way I know you can put a little bit more right there to give myself extra room. Then there's also, you can do other shapes of hand paws, so you can do 3-fingered hand paws, which would kind of be more or less like this, so 1, 2, 3. Those are good for birds, reptiles, things like that. You can also do 4-fingered hand paws, which usually are like this, because your middle and ring finger tend to move in sync with each other really, really well. You can do the ring and pinky finger, but they don't move as well, especially because the joints of your pinky don't line up with the joints of your ring. See? Not very nice. These two much nicer. So typically you do 4-finger hand paws this way. Again, in this case, instead of spreading all out like that, you're just trying to hold these two together and then spread these two out as much as possible. And it definitely feels weird. If you cannot hold these two together while you're trying to spread everything apart, you can always tape them together with a little bit of tape. Or just hold them as you stretch and then stop stretching. Here we go. And again, hold your pen more or less straight up and down. Don't angle it to go underneath. And just do this. And this more or less just gives the person who is making the hand paws, whether that's you or somebody else, let's see, there we go, a good guide, and especially helps if you have different lengths on your fingers than most people. So this way you can get hand paws that work for you. If you are making the hand paws yourselves, there we go. If you make the hand paws yourselves and you're going to add padding in order to make these two fingers as big as the double finger you have going right here, it's usually a good idea to make the padding first and then kind of either tape, or if it's going to be held in place somehow, tape or hold it in place on your fingers, and then do another tracing of it just to make sure that you account for that additional bulk. For these ones, it's like if somebody else is making it for you, they can usually account for that bulk, and I've done this a lot of times, messing with the length of my fingers to make like skeletal fingers and things like that. So once you've done it a few times, you can kind of just use this pattern and go from there. But let's see. And then again, I know that this is 7 inches, and right about there, 7.5. So now I can either use this paper, or since it's so flimsy, I might transfer it to more industrious paper, but use this paper to make hand paws. Usually the next step after this is to add in whatever bulk you're going to have, and then adding in a seam allowance, and take into account, like, if you have any places where you think your hand is really, really big, definitely measure those out, and then when you do your seam allowance, kind of double it to see how much you're going to get, because that will tell you if it's going to be too tight or too loose. My other advice is to always make a mock-up, because mock-ups are excellent and they will tell you if you're doing something really, really wrong without you sacrificing your lovely good material. So there's 2 different patterns that I am going to use to make hand paws with. This one's 5-fingered, 4-fingered, and to do a 3-fingered one, you just kind of do the Vulcan sign. Good luck!